This is a Louie T Network exclusive.
Hey, either you're outside or you're
in the lab room.
Draft Zone.
Could it be? With me, Dorman, Louie T. Welcome, you are in the lab room, of course. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me on the 2016 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, where I aim to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League's 2016 NFL Draft using our baseball graded scale, single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series, as we cannot tell how these players are going to pan out. And I don't want to discount any of these young men before they get their chance in the National Football League. And so, we'll add up all the scores from each and every individual player in the draft, get an aggregate score, divide by the number of picks made by that team in the draft, which will then yield us a final overall grade for that team's draft. Move on to the next team in the series, picked by who else other than you. That's right, you, the viewer out there, are in total control over who's next. It's the up format, or as I like to call it, the you pick format, where you, the viewers, are in total control by simply being the first, not the second, not the third, not the 33rd, not the 83rd, not the please do this team person, but the first to leave a comment in the comment section of this video and future videos of this series stating two things: the team you want to see next and the actual phrase you would next. So don't really care how you word it. Bengals next, Titans next, Tennessee next, doesn't really matter to me, okay? As long as the team's name and the phrase next is in the comment and you're first, that team will be up next in the series. Sounds simple enough? That's because it is. And so, let's go on to the next team up in the process, picked by you, the viewers. The Bears, the Chicago Bears. And I must say, Ben Hall kicking ass right now. I mean, if you want your team to be next, you need to talk to Ben Hall, because he has single-handedly picked the first 5 out of 7 teams that have been done in this process. So if I were you, I'd be Ben's best friend right now, because Ben is sitting on these videos, and somehow, some way, he's much faster than everybody else is right now. He's moving at lightning speed, and everybody else is slightly behind. Catch up, y'all losing out there. Ben Hall is killing it. So he got the Bears up. So we're about to complete the NFC North with the Chicago Bears draft from 2016. And I must say, GM Ryan Pace, I'm gonna go ahead and stand up, give you this standing ovie right now. Hell of a draft, my man. This was an extraordinary draft here put in by the Chicago Bears. Let's break it down. First round, 9th overall selection, Georgia linebacker Leonard Floyd is the selection. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. Don't you do it. And I don't trust Leonard Floyd. This guy's a menace, and I've talked about this guy throughout the entire process, and I'm not going to break him down. Of course, I've already done that in the Draft Prospects 101 series, but I will say that this is a pick that was well spent by the Bears. Remember, they came up from 11 up to 9, leapfrog the New York Giants, who have probably taken Leonard Floyd, and the Bears knew that, had a little bit of intel, leaped in front of them, got their man. And so this is a guy that I think can come in, change the game. Defensive coordinator Vic Fangio had a guy like this in San Francisco when that San Francisco 49ers defense was at its best. Under Vic Fangio, they had a guy by the name of Aldon Smith in the prime of his career, going out and bagging quarterbacks at an alarming rate. A big, long-frame defender that can use his length to get in the backfield, get to the quarterback. Similar stature to Aldon Smith. This is a guy that can come in, and I think you can do a number of things with him. He played a number of positions at Georgia, so I'm very interested and intrigued to see what the Bears are going to do with Leonard Floyd. But one thing's for sure, I know a lot of people want to make a lot about his size, and he's not the biggest guy in the world, and he's very slender, slim frame. He can bend, he can do a number of things. I think he's the best pure pass rusher in this entire draft, or at least he has the best and most dominant move of any pass rusher in this draft. Let me say that. I don't know if he's the most pure pass rusher, but I think he could be. If the Bears just said, look, man, we just want you to get to the quarterback. Forget about playing inside linebacker. Forget about dropping into coverage a bunch. We want you to go hunt the quarterback. We want you to focus in on that. I think he could be one of the best pass rushers in this entire draft class. And that inside swim move, with his length, to me is the best, by far the best move in this draft class in terms of getting to the quarterback. So I feel like the Bears just got themselves a steal in the first round. 9th overall selection, linebacker / defensive end, Leonard Floyd out of Georgia. Is hit high! He's hit deep! Way back to the warning track! Out of here! Home run for the Chicago Bears in the first round. Love this selection by the Bears. Feel like this is a guy that's going to come in and help them be better defensively on 3rd and 9. This is the type of guy you want on your football team because he's going to get to the quarterback a lot. And even if he's not there to get the sack, he's going to disrupt the timing of the play and help you get off the field on 3rd downs. When you go to the 2nd round, 56th pick overall, Kansas State offensive lineman Cody Whitehair is the selection. 6'4", 301 pounds. Tough, hard-nosed football player. This is a guy that is just really solid, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. Solid movement skills is the next pro. Not going to really wow you with the way he moves on the football field. He's not a great athlete per se. Did see him pull a little bit on tape. Did see him get out to the 2nd level, but again, he's not a guy that's going to wow you with his movement skills, but it's solid enough. It's adequate enough to get the job done at the guard position, which is where I think he's going to play at the next level. Can get to the 2nd level, and I just kind of mentioned that is the next pro, that he can get to that 2nd level. Saw him do that enough on tape to feel comfortable saying that this is a guy that can get out in space and help you down the field 10, 15 yards away from the line of scrimmage and get out and be a lead blocker on a screen or something of the sort. So I feel comfortable saying that this guy can get to the 2nd level and be effective down the field. Plays with good base, and I think sometimes we lose sight of some of the things that are important for offensive linemen, and one of those things is good base. If your feet are too close and they're too narrow, they're not spread out far enough, you can get power drive and you can lose balance very easily. You gotta have a sound base, be able to spread your feet out about shoulder width apart and set those feet down and be able to anchor down, because especially when you're a guy like Cody Whitehair with shorter arms, you know, and that's part of the reason why he can't survive out wide. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. You got to be able to have a really good foundation and base to sit down, anchor down, and hold your water when some of these big, long, strong defensive linemen are in front of you and trying to impose their will on you. And I think that's something that Cody Whitehair does a really good job of. It's playing with a really good foundation and base. Uses good blocking angles. Again, not the greatest athlete in the world. Got to use every single trick you can find. And some of these things that he likes to do is allow that defensive lineman up the field, then turn his body to shield him away from where the play is going. And so you can use a defensive lineman's aggressiveness against them, allow them up the field. Oh man, if the play's coming right to my side, but I've come up the field too far, too late, I'm here now, box him out. So he does a really good job of using angles, and you'll see him, sometimes he'll get to the 2nd level. He won't even go after the defender. The linebacker's there, he's already gotten to the 2nd level. Cody Whitehair's beat him to the spot, and all he'll do is he'll just turn his body like this. He won't even try and go and engage that guy. He'll wait for him. Hey, you got to get through me to get to the ball carrier. So I'm just going to come up to the 2nd level, and I'm going to wall you off, and I'm going to just stand here. And when you're ready to come get some, come get some. But you're not getting to that ball carrier. So he uses very efficient blocking angles, does Cody Whitehair. He fights and competes, and that's another really gritty, competitive thing that I love about Cody Whitehair is even when he's overmatched, even when he's going up against a guy that's 6'5", with long arms, Cody Whitehair doesn't care. He's going to compete. He's going to fight tooth and nail. He's going to give everything he's got. Again, that's something that you can admire, a quality that you can admire in a football player. That, you know, it doesn't matter whether he's overmatched or not. He's going to fight and give you everything he's got. And so I can respect that about Cody Whitehair. Pretty steady offensive lineman is the final pro. This is a guy that just, he goes out, he gets the job done. Hard hat, lunch pail type of guy, man. Not going to be the most flashiest guy out there, but when it's all said and done, he's going to do his job and do it to the best of his abilities, you go to his cons. Short arms, and I watched him against Oklahoma. I watched him against Baylor. I thought he struggled in both of those football games. In the Oklahoma game, you saw him struggle with both speed and quickness and getting bull rushed a little bit. I think I saw Charles Tapper really giving him some work over there with the bull rush. But what he really struggled with in that game is elite quickness. I'll talk about that next. But in the Baylor game particularly, he struggled with the bull rush. Sean Oakman was absolutely destroying Cody Whitehair, just power driving this guy back into the lap of the quarterback. Now, in Cody Whitehair's defense, their quarterback situation was not ideal. It was horrible, as a matter of fact. Their offense was really helter-skelter, no consistent quarterbacking behind center. So it's really hard to protect for a guy where you don't know where he's going to be. And it doesn't matter that you still need to be able to stand your ground and not get bull rushed. And Sean Oakman and those long binds he has for arms was really dominant in that football game versus K-State and against Cody Whitehair. You go to his next con, elite quickness will beat him, and Eric Stryker of Oklahoma absolutely obliterated, eviscerated Cody Whitehair with just pure quickness. I mean, hands, just beating him off the edge. Cody Whitehair couldn't respond, so definitely not going to be able to make a living on the outside on an island as a tackle at the next level, which is the last con. He's limited to offensive guard. He cannot make a living as a left or right tackle in the National Football League. He's got to go inside the guard, and I think the Bears have already figured that out. They've already made up their mind as to what he's going to be for them. So at the end of the day, Cody Whitehair is a solid prospect. I wasn't blown away by what I saw, but I see a gritty, tough, competitive offensive lineman that's going to give you everything he's got, and I think that's good enough for a double in the second round for offensive guard out of K-State, Cody Whitehair. You move on to the third round, 72nd pick. Florida defensive lineman Jonathan Bullard is the selection. Now, this is more my language. This is more my speed here. Love this selection by the Chicago Bears. And if you're talking about bolstering a defense that was okay but not great last year, here's another pick that's going to go a long way in doing so. 6'3", 285 pounds, really good athlete. I mean, this is a guy that you see moving with some really good movement skills when you put on the tape. Quickness off the snap is the next pro, and I think that's one of the most elite traits that he has, is his ability to win initially off the snap of the football with quickness, get into the backfield, knife into that backfield, and get ball carriers on the ground. 17.5 tackles for loss last year while at Florida. So again, this is a guy that is penetrating into the backfield. Speaking of which, disruptive penetrator is the next pro. This is a guy that gets into the backfield, makes things happen, whether he's going after the quarterback, whether he's going after the ball carrier. This is a guy that is very disruptive and plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Huge sack versus Kentucky late in that ball game to seal the deal. Those are the types of plays you get from Jonathan Bullard, a guy that can really impact the game, whether he's making the play or not. He's just a disruptive force up front. Pass rush ability, had 6.5 sacks last year at Florida. This is a guy that I think can generate some pressure on the quarterback, and I think he can get even better at that. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but just knowing that that skill set is there, you got to feel good about Jonathan Bullard and what he brings to the table. Bull rush, and that's another one of those pros where you say, not all guys come equipped with a good bull rush, but he's got that special bull rush, that one-arm pile drive that I think is lethal at the next level, because when you can extend that one arm extended is always longer than two. And so if you can extend that one arm pile drive and push a guy back, that is one of the most lethal moves in all of football when you're talking about a defensive lineman, and Jonathan Bullard can do that. Saw him put guys on the seat of their pants with that one arm pile drive, and I think that's something that if he could perfect, he could be a menace at the next level. Start at the point of attack. This is a guy that is not afraid to take on double teams. That's the next pro, so I'll go ahead and lump those two together. He started the point of attack. You're not going to move this guy off the spot very often. In fact, a lot of times with double teams, he's standing his ground at the line of scrimmage. They don't move him off the spot, and that allows other guys like Morrison, the linebacker at Florida, to go and make plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Versatility. At Florida, he played at defensive end in a four-man front. He played a three-tech, he played that three-tech as well. They moved him up and down that defensive line, and I think at the next level, he can even play five-tech. And I think that's what the Bears are looking at him as in their base front, that 3-4 front, he's going to play that 5-tech for them. And then when they kick in the nickel and they go to a 4-man front, he's going to slide inside, maybe even play some outside defensive end for him. But I think his best attribute and where he will be best utilized will be inside as a 3-tech when they go to that 4-man front. So I think there's a lot of versatility there, and I think that excites them more than anything else is how they can use this guy in multiple sets and fronts. And I think that's something that really intrigued the Bears as well. You go to his cons, he can be over-aggressive at times. And look, anytime you got a penetrating, disruptive force along the defensive line, there are going to be times where this guy runs himself out of plays and is over-aggressive. Those things are going to happen. So that's not something that I worry about. I think that's something that if you're a coach, you do what you got to do. You know what I mean? You play, you take your players, you put them in positions to succeed, and I think they're going to do that with Jonathan Bullard and put him in some positions to succeed. And whether he gets up the field and is over-aggressive or not, that doesn't matter. They're going to give this guy every opportunity to be a menace for the Chicago Bears defense. No secondary rush. This is something that I want to see him correct at the next level, and this is all coaching. When he gets to the next level, he's got to learn how, when that first move doesn't work, if he goes for the bull rush and the bull rush isn't there, or he goes for a rip swim move combination initially and it's not there, spin. Do something else to try to get to the quarterback. He's one of those guys that if that first initial rush doesn't work, you got me. I'm at a stalemate. You won. I'll get you next snap. And it doesn't always have to be that way. You never know how long the quarterback's going to hold on to the football for. You don't know how good the coverage is down the field. You may get a shot. If you come with the secondary rush, you may still be able to hit home. So I'd love to see Jonathan Bullard do a better job of using a secondary rush to try to get to the quarterback. And refine his pass rush is the final con. Look, when you're a guy that can get to the quarterback from the defensive line, and you've got a bevy of moves as Jonathan Bullard does, I want to see you use those moves a little bit more effectively, have more of a plan when you're rushing and not kind of helter-skelter. And I think, again, this all goes back to coaching. If he gets with the right coaches and they're able to tap into what this guy brings to the table, there is no doubt in my mind that this guy could be a menace. I look at him and I say, this guy has the qualities of a Michael Bennett. I could see this guy being a really disruptive force up front. I liken him to Michael Bennett. I think this guy could have that kind of effect. To me, people underrate what Michael Bennett means to that Seattle Seahawks defense. And I think to me, he's one of the biggest pieces that they have up front. And without him, that defense isn't what it is. And I think that's what he could ultimately be for the Chicago Bears defense down the line, as a guy that without his presence, they could be in trouble. But with him on the field, he could be one of those guys that can change the game for the Bears up front. They didn't have a lot of guys along that defensive line that struck fear in your heart last year. Outside of their first-round pick out of Florida State, wasn't a lot to get excited about for the Chicago Bears football team. So I look at them and I say, you need more guys that can, or was he a second-round pick last year? Either way, Eddie Goldman was the guy that stepped up for them last year. I didn't see a lot more a beef up front that really worried you. Here's another guy that's going to come in and have offensive coordinators up at night trying to figure out how to stop him. In the third round, 72nd pick overall, Florida defensive lineman Jonathan Bullard for me is hit hard. He's hit deep. You can put him on the board. Yes! The home run for the Chicago Bears and GM Ryan Pace smashing it out of the park with this one. Absolutely love Jonathan Bullard. I think his impact will be felt immediately with this football team. I think this is a guy that can come in and really give your defense, your pass rush, your run defense, all of the above, a huge shot in the arm. This is a guy that I thought was first round talent, definitely going in the second round. You get him in the third round. That to me is tremendous value. Go to the fourth round. Bears 3 fourth-round selections. This is where you make your draft right here when you get this kind of value. Go to the 4th round. First of 3 fourth-round selections. 113th pick overall. West Virginia linebacker Nick Kwiatkoski is the pick. And this is a guy that played at West Virginia with a bunch of NFL talent. You look at this football team, both safeties get drafted. One of their corners gets drafted. Now Nick Kwiatkoski comes off the board. And so you look and you say, wow, this is a lot of talent here. And this guy was one of the most talented players on that football team, on that West Virginia defense. And so let's talk about Nick Kwiatkoski. 6'2", 243 pounds. Physical downhill thumper. This is a guy that wants to come downhill, wants to hit you in your mouth. Very physical football player. And so I think that's the first thing that you see when you watch him is this guy comes down with an attitude. Physical at the point of attack. He's not just stout at the point of attack. He's physical at the point of attack. There are times where he'll come down as a blitzer and he'll hit a gap and he'll hit the fullback or he'll hit that guard that's meeting him. And he'll hit him, and upon contact, they separate because the force that Nick Kwiatkoski came with was so great that it forced separation between he and the guy that was trying to block him. So he's physical at the point of attack. Effective blitzer. I just talked about why he's an effective blitzer. Not going to make anybody miss and get in the backfield per se, but what he will do is meet that blocker with such force that sometimes he disengages from that blocker, which can also offset a play. Just think about it. If this guy gets a 7-yard head start blitzing and there's a running back trying to pick him up in the backfield, he hits him with such force that he bobbles and stumbles back a couple of yards right into the quarterback. He's just disrupted the timing of that play. So this guy's an effective blitzer that can hit home and can disrupt the play without even actually getting to the quarterback. He can drop into coverage, and that was something that surprised me watching him in coverage. He's not great in coverage necessarily, but he's adequate, more so than I thought he was going to be when I initially turned on the tape. So to see this guy drop into coverage consistently, play a space, play an area, sometimes pick up a man in his area and carry him out, pretty impressive to see him drop into coverage at times. Again, he's not necessarily great in coverage, but he's better than average in coverage, and I wasn't expecting that when I turned on the tape. He's got some awareness to him, okay? Now, I'll talk about his awareness a little bit later on, but he's got some awareness. I mean, he reads screen, he understands what's going on. So from that aspect and point of view, I think he's got some awareness things, and I think he can be even better in that department, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But there is some awareness there, and that's where you got to start. You got to have some type of awareness, and he is aware on the football field. Really solid athlete. He's a much better athlete than I was giving him credit for when I initially started watching the tape. So I came in with this preconceived notion that he was going to be this physical downhill thumper that didn't have any speed, couldn't run. That's not the case. You're talking about a guy that's probably right around a 4'7" athlete that can run around and do some things. So Nick Kwiatkoski to me is very athletic and can run around and make some things happen out on the football field. And you get special teams value here. This is a guy that's going to come in day one and jump on every special teams you got and not have a problem doing so. So those are always things that you look for as a coaching staff. When you draft a football player, you're looking for a guy that can do multiple things, come in, do everything you ask him to do, and one of those things is usually special teams, and he can do that. You go to his cons, not instinctive enough. And what I mean by that is you'll have times where you see Nick Kwiatkoski and he's not moving fast enough for me. And Mike Mayock told me once upon a time that one of the hardest positions to evaluate on tape is linebacker. And I know why, because you don't really know what these guys are being coached to do. And in Nick Kwiatkoski's situation, and when I look at him, sometimes I say, just go, man. Why are you just standing there? Don't let that offensive lineman come and meet you 4 yards past the line of scrimmage. Go meet him at the line of scrimmage. He'll see run, but he won't react to it. He'll sit there and he'll still be bouncing on the balls of his feet, and he'll still be bouncing and bouncing. And next thing you know, here comes a big nasty coming to get him. And now there's space there for that running back to get through that hole and get to the second level. So I just want to see him go, okay? Play with more instincts. I already talked about him having some awareness. see screen, read screen, dropping into coverage, keying quarterback's eyes. There's awareness there. Guys running in your zone, so you pick him up and match him man for man until he gets out of your zone. There's awareness there for things like that. I want to see him be a little bit more aware in the run game, especially because I think he's a step late in the run game because he won't go faster. He won't take off. If you see run, you diagnose run, go after that running back. And I think that's something that he needs to work on. Needs to stack and shed better. I talked about him sitting there on the balls of his feet and allowing guards and fullbacks to come and engage him. Well, he doesn't do a great job of disengaging from those guys once they lock onto him. So if you're going to allow someone to block you and you're going to be in the run game and you're going to be a little tardy, that's a problem because not only are you giving up 2-3 yards by standing there and allowing that guard to get to you, but now you're not disengaging, you're not stacking and shedding. So now that running back is able to run right off of that block and get to the next level. So he needs to do a better job to me of stacking and shedding. Let me go to this last time and it'll all make sense. No subtleness. No subtleness at all whatsoever to Nick Kwiatkoski. This is a guy that will come up and hit you. There's no gray area with him. It's black and white. It's either I'm going to smash the hell out of you or you got me. And there needs to be some give and take. There needs to be, okay, I'm going to allow you to block me. And then when that running back comes, I'm going to redirect you and I'm going to get to the ball carrier. No, it's either I'm going to smash you so hard that we disengage from one another or you got me. Or you're going to stick to me like glue. And so for me, that's the problem that I have with Nick Kwiatkoski is that it's one or the other. There's no subtleness. He's not making anybody miss. He doesn't have great agility. Can't stop and redirect. If he's running in a straight line, he's going in that direction. He's not going to stop and change directions. So there's no subtleness with him at all. There's no finesse in his game. It's all physical. It's all power. It's all downhill. And that sometimes gets him into trouble. In the 4th round, 113th overall selection, West Virginia linebacker Nick Kwiatkoski is a double. He's a solid linebacker, going to come in, play specials, be physical in the run game. I don't know how good he is in the passing game. I don't know if this is a guy you necessarily want on the field in passing situations. I don't know if you necessarily got to take him off the field, but I don't know if he excels in passing situations at the next level when you're talking about elite quickness and speed and guys being able to change directions at the drop of the hat. That's not something that he excels at, so we'll see how the Bears utilize Nick Kwiatkoski at the next level. You go to the next 4th round selection, 124th overall safety out of the U. Deon Bush is the selection. 6 foot, 199 pound safety. Good length. Really solid athlete at 4'5", 240. He can run. Physical style of play. That was something that I wasn't expecting. You look at his frame at 199, 6 feet. He actually looks more like a corner than a safety. So I was expecting a guy that's going to be a little timid, not going to be very physical in the run game. All contrary, my friend. This guy was physical. He went up, wasn't afraid to stick his nose in the fray. And so this guy has a physical style of play. He even knocked one of his teammates out of the game on one of the tapes I watched. He's one of those guys that will come be a little reckless. He's not afraid. Got ejected out of the game for targeting and one. He's a physical football player. So didn't expect that when I first watched him. When I first saw him, I said, okay, he's not going to be very physical. Well, he was. He's an instinctive football player. He'll run up, he'll make some plays on the football. He'll come down in the box, hit a guy, hit a running back in the backfield, tackle for loss. Very instinctive. He's not one of these guys that's shot and won't shoot his gun. But I talked about Eric Kwiatkoski and him needing to be more instinctive, him needing to be a little bit more aggressive in the run game. Well, Deon Bush is all of that and then some. So he's an instinctive football player, not afraid to come up and make some things happen, not afraid to shoot his gun. He can avoid blockers, and that's a gift and a curse. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But against Virginia Tech, he's up around the line of scrimmage. They run a wide play, trying to get to the outside. They've got a lead blocker and a fullback and leading the way, trying to get to the outside, to the edge. And Deon Bush not only meets that fullback, but he avoids him altogether. That fullback doesn't lay a finger on Deon Bush. He jumps to the inside quickly, cleans up the running back for about a 3-yard loss on the play. And that's what he can do. He can avoid blockers with a little bit of quickness and get downhill and get to the ball carrier. Versatility. I think in this day and age, when you get a safety that can be interchangeable, play free or strong, you feel good about what you've just done. And this is one of those guys that is versatile enough to play both free and strong safety. Can drop over the slot, play a little bit of coverage, can come down in the box, drop the hammer, but can also play 30 yards away from the line of scrimmage, range, and make some plays on the football. So I like his versatility and what he brings to the table from that standpoint. And he's got special teams value, man. I saw this guy make at least 3 or 4 different special teams tackles. Will run down on kickoffs, will be a gunner on punts. He'll do all those things and do it very well. Talked about his physicality. He's not afraid to go down and hit somebody. And so that's some great value there. If you're talking about special teams value, you know this guy's not afraid to go and play on every single team you got and be effective in doing so. You go to his cons. Takes 4 angles, and that's something that drives me nuts with a lot of these safeties is they could be a lot more efficient if they took better angles, pursuit angles to the football. A lot of times they'll be so over anxious that they just want to get to the spot as soon as possible, but you can't run where the back is. You got to run where he's going. And a lot of times they want to go to where the back is at that time where you think he's going to just stand there and let you come get him. No, he's going to keep running in a specific direction. And if you just play law of averages and you look at where this guy's going, you should be able to project where he's going to be and go meet him there. And sometimes these guys are just over anxious. They take poor angles and they give up bigger plays and bigger runs than they're supposed to. And he's one of those guys that will do that sometimes. He'll miss some tackles, and some of that is due to these poor angles. When you come up and you take a bad angle, it puts you in a bad spot to make a tackle. Instead of you coming at an angle where you got the sidelines that you can use to get a guy down, in addition to wrapping him up and bringing him down, you come from a bad angle. Next thing you know, you're behind this guy. Now you're reaching and you're grabbing and you're trying to get a piece of cloth or you're trying to get an ankle. Next thing you know, that running back or that receiver has beaten your angle because you took a poor one, and now he's off to the races, or now one of your teammates got to help you out 10, 12 yards down the field. So he will come up, or sometimes he'll be in great position and he'll just flat out miss sometimes. And that's something you just got to deal with Deon Bush. He will avoid blockers. Now, remember, that was actually a pro earlier on. Now it's a con. I told you it's a gift and a curse. When you talk about avoiding blockers, you turn on the pit tape, and there's a play, and it didn't hurt him. It didn't hurt his team. But if James Conner were back there, the Terminator were back there at running back, I think he would have exploited this. He comes down as an 8th defender in the box, this Deon Bush, and he takes a sloppy, wide angle trying to avoid the tight end on the play. Instead of him taking on that tight end, filling that gap, and not allowing that running back to have a huge cutback lane, he takes this wide looping angle to go outside of the tight end to try to avoid him. Well, guess what? Had that running back had great vision and James Conner would have taken advantage of this, then he would have seen a huge cutback lane and he would have cut it back, and there was a lot of space and opportunity. You're talking about getting out of the back door and potentially getting up 20, 25, 30 yards, maybe even getting into the end zone with the kind of cutback lane that Deon Bush opened up trying to avoid a blocker. So that's something he's going to have to work on. There's a time when you can shoot a gap and avoid a blocker like he did against Virginia Tech, and there's a time where you just need to go head on and meet that blocker in a gap and fill your gap and do your job, and sometimes he can get away from that. But in the 4th round, 124th pick overall, safety out of Miami, Deon Bush for me is a double, man. This guy's solid. He's rock solid if you ask me. I think with some fine tuning, you cut off some of the fat trimmings off the edges of his game, and you really get to the meat and potatoes of what this guy is, you could really get yourself a football player here in the 4th round in Deon Bush. I like what he brings to the table from the safety position. I love what he does in the special teams game. He's a selfless individual on and off the field. I really like Deon Bush and what he brings to the table. Very physical. Think he can have a nice, bright future for him in the National Football League. You go to the 4th round again, the 3rd of their 3 4th round selections, 127th pick overall. Northern Iowa defensive back DeAndre Hall is the selection, 6'2", 199 pounds. So we're talking about another hybrid cornerback safety type of player, much like Deon Bush in the previous pick, that you look at and you say, man, doesn't really have that huge of a build for potentially the safety position. but this is a guy that with some of his attributes and some of his measurables, I don't know if he necessarily needs to play the safety position at the next level. 6'2", 199, long as hell is the first pro. His wingspan is absolutely and utterly ridiculous. It is out of bounds, okay? There's a clip, a picture that I saw of him on YouTube where he's gripping two footballs. He's got his arms extended like this with a ball in each hand. And if you just go look at that picture, to me, that picture really exemplifies what this guy is in terms of length. And let me give you a little bit of framework and reference as to how long his arms are. He has offensive lineman-like wingspan. Taylor Decker, offensive lineman that was out of Ohio State, drafted by the Detroit Lions in the first round, is 6'7", okay? He has 33 and 3/4 inch arms, okay? 33 and 3/4 length arms. DeAndre Hall is 6'2" and has 34 and a half inch arms. Let me repeat that. DeAndre Hall at cornerback / safety is 6'2", has 34 and a half inch arms. Longer than a 6'7" tackle, okay? His arms are ridiculous. That's basketball length at the cornerback position. Insane. Okay, so right there, you're talking about a guy that has a distinct advantage on the defensive side of the football just because of his length. Not afraid to mix it up. And that's part of the reason why they weren't afraid to move this guy from corner to safety, is because this guy wasn't afraid to tackle. He would get up, mix it up with guys, and that length that I talked about and referenced earlier was part of the reason why. He could take a guy, stack him, a receiver, stack him, get rid of him because of his long length. He's going to get to that receiver or that tight end before they get to him because they can't measure up to his arms. They're too long, they extend. He's able to make contact and disengage and get to the ball carrier. Toughness. I watched this guy play against North Dakota State, and of course, if you watch the second pick in the draft, Carson Wentz at North Dakota State, you're going to run into him playing against UNI, Northern Iowa. Well, you see DeAndre Hall out at corner. He's got a huge club on his hand, and he's out there playing cornerback, and he's tackling and he's being physical. He's got a broken hand, and he's out there playing football. Guy's a tough guy, okay? Playmaking ability. All right, 13 career interceptions at UNI. 4 of them went to the crib. So this guy's a playmaker. He gets his hands on the football. He's dangerous with the football. Versatility. He can play corner or safety. This guy was an all-conference cornerback. He was one of the best players in FCS in terms of the defensive side of the football. And then they said, hey, man, we need you at safety. And so he makes the switch from corner to safety and was interchangeable, was playing some corner, would play some safety. So there's some versatility here that I'm pretty sure that the Bears loved when watching DeAndre Hall. Special teams value, much like Deon Bush, this guy can play special teams. He's not afraid to tackle. Anytime you got a corner / safety that's got 82 tackles on the season, you know this guy's not afraid to go down and hit somebody. So you can put him on any specials you like, and this guy's going to be responsive and go out and do some things for you. So there's also some added value there, putting DeAndre Hall on any special teams you need him on. You go to his cons. He's not a blazer. 4'5", 540 is probably the best you're going to get out of this guy. So, you know, making that switch to safety makes sense. But I'm going to talk about that here in a second as to why I don't think that's a necessity at the next level. Doesn't have a clean back pedal to sprint transition. And I talked about that with some of the elite corners in this draft, how they make it seem effortless, how it's a seamless transition from backpedaling to full-out sprint. And that can't be understated. I talked about how if that's a sloppy transition, how that's a slow transition, how you waste movement there, you're losing a step or two depending on what receiver you're checking. You're losing a step. In the NFL, all it takes is one false step for a tight end, and with these quarterbacks that have some serious accuracy and pinpoint precision, all it takes is one step for these guys to be considered open, and they're hitting these guys in stride And so when you have a sloppy transition or it's a slow transition from back pedal to full out sprint, you give up a little bit. But what he lacks there, he makes up with length. And so this is the reason why that 4.55 speed doesn't scare me. This bad transition from back pedal to sprint doesn't scare me, is because with his length, he doesn't necessarily have to be out of the play. Now again, you don't want him going up against elite speed because they'll blow by him. Length or no length, you can't make up. If you're a 4.55 guy and you're going up against a guy that's running a 4.44, you're not going to be able to. I don't care how long you are. That football's put out in front of that guy so he can run under it. You're not catching up with a 4.55 speed. So you know who he reminds me of? I look at him. He reminds me a lot of Trumaine Johnson. Remember, Trumaine Johnson came out of a smaller school and made a lot of plays in college, had great ball skills, but he wasn't fast. So what did everybody naturally say? Oh, we gotta move this guy to safety. What did the Rams do? They took him and they made him into a corner. And guess what? He's one of the better corners in the league right now. I can see the same thing happening with DeAndre Hall. A little bit of time, a little bit of fine tuning, a little bit of technique work, and putting this guy in some situations to succeed. A lot of zone coverage, giving him a chance to eyeball the quarterback, talk about the playmaking ability. You give this guy a chance, and I think that he can make some plays for you in that secondary. In the 4th round, 127th pick overall, Northern Iowa defensive back DeAndre Hall for me is a double, and I'll tell you why. I really wanted to make him a triple, but I'm not sure how the Bears are going to utilize this guy. Are they going to move him to safety? Are they going to put him at corner? Are they going to interchange him and do a little bit of both with him? How does he respond to not being the fastest guy? Because even at Northern Iowa, he was still considered an athlete in FCS. Now, you come into the NFL where everybody's fast, and now you're going to have to use that length a little bit to your advantage. And so I want to see how he makes this adjustment. How does he adapt to his surroundings? I think he has the potential to really be a steal for them in this draft, but it's all about his development and how he transitions from college to lesser competition to now elite level competition at the next level. You go to the 5th round, 150th pick overall, Indiana running back Jordan Howard is the selection. 6 feet, 230-pound back, north and south downhill runner. This is a guy that can get up the field, and he's not shy about his running style. He runs well behind his pads, runs very physically behind his pads. That's the next pro. Gets up the field in a hurry, not looking to make anybody miss, not looking to shake anybody down. He's looking to run guys over, and that's pretty much his style. The next pro is he's a one cut and go back. He's one of these guys that would benefit from a stretch offense where he's looking to press that hole, and then when he finds that cutback, stick that foot in the ground, get up the field in a hurry. A team like Baltimore would have been great for him. We'll see what happens with the Bears. They've got a new offensive coordinator. We know about their offensive coordinator moving on to Miami, the greener pastures as a head coach. So we'll see what kind of running style they're implementing in Chicago, because if it's a little bit of a stretch zone running game, I think he could benefit from that, because this is a guy that can press the hole, stick his foot in the ground, and get up the field much faster than slow. Solid in pass pro. I wasn't expecting him to be that solid in pass pro, but he was. So that's something that you can get from Jordan Howard. I don't know if it's necessarily going to benefit him all that much, because Jeremy Langford is already in Chicago, and to me, he's a much better pass catcher out of the backfield. So I think if Jordan Howard is going to hit the field, it's going to be probably on 1st and 2nd down, most likely, whereas Jeremy Langford would be the guy. And I like Jeremy Langford a lot, and I think he's more the guy you want on the field all 3 downs to be your new Matt Forte. But, I mean, Jordan Howard will be here to help take away some of those carries and lighten that load a little bit. But I don't see him being a 3rd down back, so I don't know if pass pro will necessarily come into play for Jordan Howard or not. Good balance and vision. It's not the greatest. Okay, it's not exceptional balance and vision, but he does have it. It is a quality that he does possess. So it's good to know that if there's a cutback, that he will see it and he will be able to get there, because the balance and the vision will match up. But he's not going to make a sharp cut. He's not going to get the football, make a ridiculous jump cut that is extremely sharp and get to the outside and get to that cutback lane that most backs can't get to now. That's not what he's doing. But if there is a cutback that's there, it is a nice little easy cut for him to make, he can do that. He has the vision to see that. He gets yards after contact. He gets yak. That's the final pro, or final 2 pros, yak yards after contact, and toughness. I watched this guy gut it out against Ohio State on one leg. Nasty ankle injury where he turns his ankle. He has to leave the field for a little bit, comes back, guts it out. Didn't miss 2 games afterwards, so that lets you know how bad the ankle sprain really was. But he's a tough guy. Played most of the season on that one ankle because, you know, when you sprain your ankle, it's going to take a while for that thing to actually heal up the way you need it to. So he's a tough guy, gets yards after contact. Told you, he's not trying to make anybody miss. He's powering through arm tackles, powering through tacklers, and getting extra yardage after contact with a little bit of forward lean as well. So he's a guy that definitely maximizes his runs in terms of just getting what's there even when he's being contacted. You go to his cons. Lacks agility. He's a straight line runner. And I look at him and I say he's like a DeMarco Murray type to me. DeMarco Murray, not great agility wise. He's looking to get up and straight, you know, north and south, up and down the field. He's not looking to shake anybody down. He's trying to get everything that's there. If you block it well, he's going to maximize the run. And that's how I view Jordan Howard. Not a real pass catching threat. I kind of alluded to that earlier. Not going to be a guy that's going to really wow you in what he brings to the table from a pass catching standpoint. I don't believe he ever had more than 15 catches in any one given season in college. So I don't think that's something you got to worry about him doing at the next level. He can catch the football in the screen game, but splitting him out like you do Jeremy Langford, like you used to do with Matt Forte, not an option with Jordan Howard. That is not his strength. Heavy workload, over 500 carries in the last 2 seasons. 2 years ago, in 2014, this guy had over 300 touches, 306 to be exact. Another 196 would have probably easily been over 200 carries had he not missed 4 games this past season. So he's got a pretty heavy workload. There are some tread that has been used up and that are off his tires. So we'll see if that impacts him. But I like the fact that this Bears backfield is already loaded with other backs. So he didn't have to come in and carry the load per se. So I think that's going to help him have a longer career. Anyhow, health. He missed 4 games with a bunch of nagging injuries. I talked about the ankle injury, a couple of other injuries that sidelined him for a few games this year. So missed 4 games. That's something that if he's not available, if he's not healthy, he's not any good to this Bears football team. He's got to be able to stay healthy and show what he can bring to the table. And he lacks home run hitting speed as the final con. Talking about a 4.59 guy, so essentially you're talking about a 4.6 40 athlete. He really turned me off at the combine. I really soured on Joe. I was really high on Jordan Howard coming into the process initially, and at the combine, I thought he really dropped the ball. I thought he had a 4-day at the combine. I thought he looked slow, he looked sluggish, he didn't catch the football well. His lack of agility showed through. I thought he really was unimpressive at the combine, and I think that's why he dropped to the 5th round. I mean, I think a lot of people looked at him and said, man, this is a 2nd, 3rd round back initially, and then you go to the combine and you see him go out there and really stink it up, and next thing you know, he's available in the 5th round. And so there are some cons here that I'm not really thrilled about, but at the end of the day, this guy's a big physical football player. In this 5th round, 150th pick, Indiana running back Jordan Howard for me is a double. I think he's going to be exactly that, a solid shot into the gap, stand-up double. You got running backs in your backfield that I like already. I think he's going to come in and be a really good number 2 option to Jeremy Langford. And I really like what Jeremy Langford did last year. I like what he brings to the table. And I think Jordan Howard will be a nice change of pace from what Jeremy Langford does for you in the backfield. You go to the 6th round, 185th overall pick, William & Mary defensive back, DeAndre Houston-Carson, or DHC, is the selection. 6'1", 201-pound safety, aggressive physical safety, man. This guy will come up and hit you. That was the first thing that jumped off the screen to me. Was the first 2 tapes I watched, he really wasn't in coverage very much. He was coming down, whether he was coming back from his free safety position 20 yards off the line of scrimmage and coming down and hit somebody, or he was in the box coming down and hitting somebody, but he was hitting somebody. That was the overriding theme early in my assessment of him. Was this guy's coming down and hitting guys, period. Taking on blockers, hitting ball carriers, he's hitting somebody. So a physical, aggressive safety. He's a great last line of defense. As a free safety, I want you to be able to tackle and be a sound tackler. I don't want you being a risky gambler that is taking unnecessary risks that is going to put the defense as a whole at risk, come up and be a sound tackler. And that's what DeAndre Houston-Carson is. This is a guy that will come up and he'll break down and he'll get that ball carried out. Last line of defense, I need you to make sure you get the guy on the ground, and that's what he does. Feel comfortable and confident saying he'll do that. He'll give up his body. Okay, this is one of those guys that out on the football field, he's not making business decisions. He's going out there and he's laying his body out there on the line on each and every single snap. I mean, he's throwing his body around, throwing his weight around. Is it always effective? No, sometimes he won't wrap up. Guys will bounce off of him, but he's throwing his body around. I mean, I saw this guy being really reckless out on the football field, and that's something that, as a coaching staff, you gotta respect, because you know he'll sell out for his football team, and that's what DeAndre Houston-Carson will do on a regular basis. Is he'll sell out for his football team. If you need him to go out there and put it all out on the line, that's what he's doing on each and every single snap. He's a tough guy, and I talked about him putting his body on the line. I'll give you an example. In the FCS playoff game last year, in the second round, they're getting throttled by Richmond. I mean, this game is absolutely out of hand. And he gets hurt. I mean, I'm thinking it looks like a stinger to me, because they're flexing the neck and they got him raising his arms. So it's definitely neck, shoulder region. I'm thinking it's a little bit of a stinger. And they're down like 42-6 at the time. I'm like, dude, you don't have to do this. You're a senior. This is your last game. You don't have to do this. He goes back, man, give me my helmet. I'm good. He goes back in the game. And you can see after every hit, he's coming just as hard and just as physical and just as fast and laying his body out on the line just like he was in the first quarter when he was perfectly fine. He's still doing all those same things, but you can see him getting up slow from every hit, like it's hurting him. He doesn't care. He's a tough guy to lay it out on the line, and so I can respect it. In a 42-6 game, nonetheless, okay? At some point, he could have mentally checked out and said, you know what? I'm going to the league. I don't need this. Man, got his helmet, got back out on the field, and finished taking that ass whooping with the rest of his teammates. That's toughness. I don't know what else is. If that's not toughness to you, I don't know what your definition of toughness is. He's a good athlete. 4'5", 440. This guy runs very well, man. I mean, when you put him out at free safety and you ask him to come up 20 yards away from the line of scrimmage and make a tackle, that's what he does. This guy's a really good athlete, good movement skills, very impressive. I understand why this guy got selected in the draft. Good special teams value. He was a gunner at William & Mary. He did a number of things on special teams. This is a guy that you can win with on special teams as well. I think if nothing else, if this guy's not starting for you, and I think eventually with the way he plays the game, would not shock me, even though you took two, I think, guys that could play the safety position in the middle of this draft. I still look at, and you took a guy last year out of Penn State that I liked the way that he was progressing as the season went along. Even though you already got guys that I think you feel comfortable with at the safety position, wouldn't surprise me if this guy wasn't getting some snaps down the road in a year or two from now. And I think he's a guy that you can feel really good about putting in the back end of your defense. His cons, and what I was going to say, let me finish up that thought, was even if he's not getting on the field from a defensive standpoint, I think there's some special teams value here with DeAndre Houston-Carson at the end of the day. Let's get to his cons. He's raw. As a safety, this guy played 3 years at the cornerback position, and in his final season, his coaches said, hey man, you know what? We got corners now. We feel good that a couple of incoming classes now. You got some young guys out of the cornerback position. We could really use you at the safety position. Can you make that switch for us? No problem, coach, where you need me. So he's a guy, selfless, comes out, makes the switch to safety. I thought he really acquitted himself well. Now, again, not a lot of tape and not a lot of experience at safety, so it's a process. It's a transition that he's making, but I thought he did a really good job acquitting himself and making that transition. He'll take less than ideal pursuit angles is the final con. Every now and again, he'll come off the pace, and instead of him running to where a guy's going to be, and I talked about this with Deon Bush, he'll run to where a guy is. And then next thing you know, like, I'll give you an example, the Richmond game in the playoffs. Early in that ball game, there's a running play. Running back gets through the initial wave of defensive linemen, gets to the second level. DeAndre Houston-Carson is coming off the pace from the safety position, takes a poor angle, ends up having to chase him in a pursuit and behind him. And instead of him meeting him in the front and tackling him at the spot where he first met up with the running back, he took a poor angle, and that running back outran him initially. And so he was in a chase technique in a pursuit. And he ended up walking him down from behind, which he was faster than that running back. He should have been able to tackle him near the line of scrimmage for probably about a 7, 8, maybe 9-yard gain max. Instead, he took a poor angle and ended up having to chase the guy 35 yards down the field for a huge run early in that ball game. To me, that kind of set the tempo. So take better angles, he'll be fine. But in the 6th round, 185th pick overall, defensive back DeAndre Houston-Carson, DHC, is a double. This is a really solid pick, man, in the 6th round. Get a guy that's going to help you on special teams, and I think eventually can contribute on the defensive side of the football. You round out this really good draft put together by GM Ryan Pace. To me, this is one of his signature drafts here in Chicago. 7th round, 230th overall selection. Western Michigan wide receiver Daniel Braverman is the pick. 5'10", 177 pounds. Tremendous speed and quickness. 4.47 athlete here. Really quick and gets in and out of breaks. That's one of his pros, so I'll go ahead and lump that in with the next pro as well. Excellent route running ability. This is a guy that gets in and out of breaks, wins immediately off the line of scrimmage, and that's another pro, so I'll lump that in here too. This is a guy that wins out of the slot. He's a guy that can get in and out of breaks. He doesn't waste a lot of motion. Linebackers and safeties don't stand a chance against this guy. You watch Michigan State, and this is the thing I love. At Central Michigan, their non-conference schedule, they had Michigan State and Ohio State. So he played up against elite competition. So that whole, not playing against elite competition argument goes out of the window. This guy played up against elite competition, and he ate both of those teams alive. He had 5 games where he had double-digit catches, and 2 of those games were against Michigan State and Ohio State. So this guy is the truth. So from that standpoint, this guy can get it done at a high level. He played up against elite competition, and he decimated that competition. Should have even had a better game against Michigan State, but he had a drop that was probably going to be a touchdown had he caught that football. So I thought that he was tremendous when he played against elite competition. He wins off the line of scrimmage. He's a guy that gets in and out of breaks. Love what he brings to the table. Look, of course, you're going to get all the white comparisons of small slot receivers. Wes Welker, Brandon Stokely, Julian Edelman. You go ahead and compare him to who you want. At the end of the day, this guy's going to come in. He's making this Bears roster, okay? There's no doubt in my mind because they have a need at the slot position. They got 2 big horses on the outside now. Getting Kevin White back from last year's draft, re-signing or at least extending that franchise tag to Alshon Jeffrey. Never ever trust the man with 2 first names. They got some horses out wide. Now they just need a guy in the slot. I saw Mike Mariani out there way too often last year. That's done. Now you got Daniel Braverman. That's done. This guy's going to come in and absolutely change the game for Jay Cutler and company at the wide receiver position in the slot. This guy wins immediately. You go to his next pro, special teams value. And this guy returned punts, kickoffs, you name it, he did it at Western Michigan. So you can expect him to do that if you need him to for the Chicago Bears. And I think they're going to look to him to do that as well. And I think he's going to win that job when it's all said and done. And his production, another pro, at Western Michigan, 109 grabs. So this guy, high volume, explosive football player, made some big plays, 109 catches, 2nd in the nation last year in catches, over 1,300 yards, double-digit touchdowns. This guy gets the job done. So forget about his small stature, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. This guy's a football player. Get him the football, watch him work. And so I think he's got solid hands. He brings a lot to the table. He's quick, he's fast, he's all of that. And I think that's why the Bears were very fortunate to get this guy in the 7th round. You go to his cons. Small stature, you're going to hear people talk about his size at 5'10", 177. And to be honest with you, that's the reason why this guy's here in the 7th round. Because of his small stature, I think a lot of teams were afraid to make this selection. I don't know why, because in this day and age, yes, he's not a big guy. Can he stand up to the rigors of the NFL? We'll find out. But we've seen guys that were small come into this league and have an impact, like a Tavon Austin. And I'm not saying that's what he is, but guys can survive in this league at 5'10", 177. And with his skill set and what he brings to the table, there's no way he should have been on the table here for the Bears to select in the 7th round. Concentration lapses. Every now and again, he'll drop a football that he should catch. I talked about the Michigan State drop. That was a deep ball, about 50 yards down the field, that if he catches, he probably strolls in for about a 65-yard touchdown on Michigan State. You'll get that from him from time to time, but at the end of the day, this guy's legit, man. And in the 7th round, 230th pick overall, wide receiver out of Western Michigan, Daniel Braverman is the rare 7th round triple. This guy, to me, had no business whatsoever being on the board in the 7th round for the Bears to be able to select. To me, this is an absolute steal by Ryan Pace and his group in the 7th round. This is a 4th round guy right here that I'm looking at, and he's in the 7th round. This is great value for a team that needs a slot receiver. You're getting one that falls right in your lap in the 7th round. You can't ask for it much better than that. This guy's gonna win. He's gonna win immediately. And I feel bad for those teams in the NFC North because he's going to be a tough cover for every single slot corner, safety, and linebacker in that division for years to come. So that's the Chicago Bears draft. Ryan Pace, man, phenomenal job here. No singles, a bunch of doubles, good value, couple of home runs early in the draft. Great finish to the draft with Daniel Braverman. This is a hell of a draft by the GM Ryan Pace. Let's look at it quickly. 1st round, the Georgia linebacker, Leonard Floyd. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. That's a home run. 2nd round, Cody Whitehair, guard out of K-State. That's a double. Jonathan Bullard, defensive lineman out of Florida. That's another deep shot, home run, no doubt about it. 4th round, Nick Kwiatkoski is a double out of West Virginia, the linebacker there. Another 4th round selection out of the U. Safety, Deon Bush is another double. Another double for a 4th round cornerback / safety, DeAndre Hall out of UNI. 5th round, Jordan Howard, running back out of Indiana, is another double. William and Mary, safety in the 6th round. DeAndre Houston-Carson, or DHC, is a double as well. And then finish up the draw very strong, finish up the draft very strong. The 7th round selection, the wide receiver out of Western Michigan, Daniel Braverman, is a triple. You add all of that up, 2 home runs, a triple, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 doubles, which nets you 4 double bonuses, which is a grand total of 10 doubles altogether. You add all of that up, you get 31 points overall. Divide by the number of picks, which is 9, and the Chicago Bears have a whopping 3.44 triple. Right now, they're the highest of any team in this series. Chicago Bears absolutely lit it up with their 2016 NFL draft. That's going to do it for the Chicago Bears. The Bears in their 2016 NFL draft. If it happens in the National Football League, but a big one small coverage. All here in the lab. We'll back and forth with the breakdown. And now, National Football League. Bart Scott. Can't wait. There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter at InTheLabRoom, or you can like the Facebook page at In The Lab Room. That's In The Lab Room on Facebook and at In The Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.